And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the Intercontinental Hotel on this very sober day when somewhere between 147 and 167 Kenyans, young Kenyan kids killed on a campus in Garissa. Unbelievable. Tweets coming in thick and fast. Senator Hassan Omar Hassan is my guest, and he came in literally in the last minute because it's an important topic. Fauz Khalid says, Senator is right about the need to withdraw. We should send elders to these guys too, or we should talk to these guys. Christine Muridi says, we can handle our tribalism. Let's stop pretending there is no war on religion. Is there a war on religion here? Because we're understanding they were literally separating Christians from Muslims in the campus.
You know, I overheard one of your panelists on KTN just before I came here within the interview that Edith was undertaking. That why don't they do a similar separation in Mogadishu? They're killing Somalis or Muslims in Mogadishu. So, or what they realize is that they realize that we are a country that is fairly fractured, and they know that we have an ethnic slant in this country. We hate each other on account of our ethnicity. If you look at the tweeters and you see how, for instance, comments follow in any conversation, you almost see an ethnic trend. There's no rocket science in it. Yeah. You look at the name, you say, okay, I expected it, and vice versa. So I think what has happened is there is a definite attempt to incite religious hatred in this country. And they know that once we go into that direction, we've totally lost it.
And again, that's what I was telling you earlier on. Al-Shabaab is watching our every move.
Absolutely.
They're monitoring us.
And I said, if they're watching somewhere, they are smiling. I saw hot in the hills. I saw the Al-Shabaab spokesperson, a man who goes by Sheikh Rage, talking on the social media, or having given a statement saying, we separated the Christians from the Muslims. They're very deliberate in that narrative because they're trying to infuse that narrative. Yeah. And I think so far we've done well as a country to be able to come out strongly. Yeah. Because I saw in terms of what the response by the people of Garissa was beyond religion. You know, I saw those who were giving blood were majority Muslim. The people, the governor has been there, the woman rep has been there. The leader of majority in the National Assembly, Duale, has been there. So I think it's that show of solidarity at this time of need. And I think what we need to do is to stop the xenophobic, stereotyping that we have against certain communities. We stop the profiling, because then what you do is you lose a critical constituency in terms of being able to counter that narrative. Because if you make people angry with the kind of statements that you make or the kinds of actions that you take, you transgress on rights of people in a holistic sense, blanket victimization. Then you do more to escalate those embers of hatred, and then people get to that don't care attitude.
Absolutely.
Assuming, I was telling you about this story just before we started the program, assuming the narrative we had on the papers yesterday, is it the day before yesterday, was true, that there were 3 young Muslim girls from affluent families, university, who were arrested in Elwak, attempting to cross into Somalia. Yeah. Assume that was true. That narrative is consistent with the narrative of young British girls going to be what are called jihadi wives. Yeah. Young British girls from affluence who are doing very well in school. I've been seeing it every day on the BBC and other international news channels. And therefore, it is defeatist to believe that it is just about some low-life, ragtag, helpless, hopeless people who are undereducated who take up to these types of vicious actions.
But what is it, Senator, that drives someone? I mean, some of the pictures we've been seeing on social media, and they're horrific, and I hope the family members don't get to see them. You see, like it looked like a cafeteria, literally blood everywhere, people slaughtered, people lying about. What drives a human being to become that animal, to do that to a fellow human being?
In fact, one thing is the social media has become extremely violent lately. And that itself is no good even in terms of the values that it inculcates. We've gotten so used to ISIS slaughtering people every day, shooting people close range. They're saying these are Christians that we are butchering, who we arrested in Libya. So I think the narrative here is also to escalate a Muslim-Christian divide. Already in the Middle East, there's a sectarian divide. If you hear what the Saudis are doing in Yemen, it's about sectarianism. When you go to to Iraq its sectarianism. And therefore, I think what we need to do is to avoid that religious line. But it also sometimes puzzles me immensely about what will get somebody to that type of brutality. What immense hatred must have been inculcated in terms of an ideology that is very hateful, or some kind of vengeance. And I think what all this feeds into, I can tell you for a fact, you saw the documentary that was released by the Shabab around Pekatoni. Yeah. A lot of people did watch it. You know, they put in these sins. Look, they have murdered our sheikhs. They have taken our lands. They have entered our mosques. They have killed our youth. And I think what happens is when that meets hopelessness, no sense of hope, where governments don't appear to be deliberate in delivering on the promise of unemployment or employment for that matter, poverty, and all these other broad values that we have imbibed in the Constitution, then people are able to exploit that state and be able to now get people to hate. And then it's like a mafia thing. It gives you, when you have no family, nobody to rely on, then it gives you a sense of fraternity. Yeah. So therefore, then you go with your fraternity, to commit those type of crimes.
And then the people who lead these outfits, ragtag outfits like Al-Shabaab. I mean, look at you saw the most wanted picture, right?
Kuno.
You saw him. Yeah, 20 million shilling bounty on him.
Sheikh Kuno, whenever they have any issue about Kenya, these are the two pictures that they release. Here's the picture of Sheikh Kuno, and they will release the picture of Ahmed Iman. So I think it's been almost a narrative. I think they need to cut the crap now. Yeah. They need to get more serious. They've done this all the time. And it came, and I was hearing some analysis saying that it came almost immediately after the attack. So if they had this intelligence, why didn't they maybe alert people and if they have intelligence about what he's doing, they should also have, what I say, intelligence about where he is, so that they engage in hot pursuit. That's what the army should be doing, that KDF. And I think that narrative is getting a little tired, that whenever, remember that cliche at that time when whenever anything happened in Nairobi, you say it's the Mungiki. Yeah. So now I think it's become a very easy fallback. Whenever anything happens, they always parade some handful of pictures. So suddenly they will say the white widow was seen somewhere there, and therefore there might be they try to implicate somebody of that nature.
What does this do to Somalis in general, or people who look like you for that matter? Does it put you in a precarious position? Because
I think it does. I think I've had conversations internally with Muslims. They're concerned that there might be the fractures of the nation that are getting deeper and deeper. They have been trying to leave out of a situation that they've found themselves since independence. These types of issues don't help them, because the Kenyans have this generalization, and that's why I think I'm very elated to be in the coalition that I am in, because even when some of my colleagues spoke, they were very cautious about, now don't victimize Muslims, don't victimize Somalis. They've been very cautious not to drive a wedge. So I think they need to demonstrate leadership, and I think our public education needs to go a little higher in terms of our fidelity to the law and the Constitution. We need to say that we will pursue the criminals. So you don't generalize, but we are mindset towards hatred, and therefore it is easy for anybody to incite us against profiling. We profile one another every day.
But Senator, someone's sleeping on the job. Listen to Judith Dora Kolo. She says, I believe when terrorists enter Kenya, they live among locals. Why aren't these locals informing? Someone's dropping the ball somewhere.
I think that's what I'm saying. If somebody comes to your neighborhood, maybe I also saw one person asking, why is the Nyumba Kumi not working? Because you need to build trust, you need to build credibility. These things just don't just rest on quicksand. They must rest on some foundation. You see, if you go let's say into Majengo neighborhood in Mombasa and attack everybody, you put the people on a defensive. So you lose a very critical constituency which could have facilitated or assisted you. So you need to have a buy-in because if they live within our midst and nobody's saying anything about it, it means people are either too afraid or people are too distrusting. You might, and I've had narrations that one day you report the Shababs, the next day they're arresting you for being the Shabab himself. So I think I think the police lacks credibility, and I think even the way, one of the things I was told even about leadership is your demeanor. You could speak in such an authority that people immediately confidently relate to what you're saying. And I think you remember when when Saitoti spoke. He spoke with the gravitas. I think he's one of the best security ministers we've had in the recent times.
And Michuki as well?
Michuki was good in terms of the hard strategy, but hard strategy without a corresponding strategy that also tends to deal with the long-term issues around the problem. It just resolves the matter temporarily. It does not lead to long-term solutions. You see, if you look at what Saitoti did, Saitoti talked about engagement with some of these groups, like tried to tackle the issue of MRC. They created this whole platform to listen to grievances of the MRC, so that they can be able to mitigate whatever the social or economic causes or political causes that could decimate the group.
And you don't think
he believed in police reforms. These grains in terms of policing, the Independent Police Oversight Authority, one of the most progressive laws, the National Police Service Act, the National Police Service Commission Act, these were all manifestations of Saitoti believing in a broader institutional framework to combat the issue of insecurity.
Yeah.
When Jubilee government came into being, some of the first steps they tried to roll back, even without trial, is these gains which were made. Oh, it cannot work. You can't have a civilian leading this. You can't have that person doing this. But these were negotiated settlements by the Kenyan people.
Okay, so we got rid of Ololenku after a whole series of debacles. Enter General Kaiseri forward, Accord, if you will. How's he doing? Is it early days? Is it too soon?
Kaiseri went there as a private individual, and even it was manifest in the Kajiado Central by-election, where he, contrary to the constitution, he decided to support the Jubilee candidate, which is fair enough. I think we have the capacity to move on. But I think unless he demonstrates a program, these things is not about titles. It's not about, saying the rhetoric. I think there needs to be a strategy. And what Kenyans cannot see clearly is a strategy. We see rhetoric. Today the president trying to almost point fingers at the fact that we've not trained the 10,000 police recruits since last year, and therefore the judiciary is to blame. And he says he takes the responsibility for abrogating the law. I think what we need to do is to demonstrate that there's a clear strategy, and to demonstrate the wheat. And then we need to be a little more, we need to be a little less lazy. Why are we, if you look at how other countries have tackled it, it's not rocket science. They employ the capacities of people who are schooled in these fields, people who have knowledge in terms of how these types of situations have been handled in other countries. So therefore, you bring the expertise and adopt it to your own kind of contextual reality. Or you send your people for greater learning so that they can be able to adopt more effective, strategies. You heard what the court leader said in his statement.
Yeah.
Strategies are evolving. The sophistication of our enemies, the sophistication of crime is evolving. But we decide to be still the Kiganjo 1963 Afande type of, business is not going to work.
Yeah.
One threat after another.
The new IG, I mean, he's literally been days on the job. Your thoughts about him? You talk about presence, you talk about demeanor, you talk about, a man who looks, when he talks on TV, people listen.
What happens is Samuel Arachi was there for some time and nothing happened. If I was the appointing authority, I would just appoint Samuel Arachi. I mean, it's only common sense that if when things were working, when Jeff was there, you appoint Jeff. So what was Samuel Arachi doing right in the last 3 months? So I think that will have been my strategy. So I hope he can catch up. Maybe but I will be still equally harsh, because we did warn in the Senate that he was not going for a walk in the park. He was not going for a game of golf. He was going for real stuff.
And he's gotten a wake-up call this morning.
Maybe a very loud wake-up call. And I think I heard the first day or two, he flew to Mandera, if I'm not wrong. There's something that happened and he flew there. And then now he's flown again. You don't need to fly there. You need to have the strategies. What they confuse, why we said an IG could even be a civilian is because we wanted an IG who's a strategic manager, simply to coordinate the work of the two police services. So that the people who are true operational commanders is Rachi on one side and our good lady on the other side. So I think there is a total misreading of what the role of an IG is supposed to be. Yeah. He was supposed to be a strategic manager, strategic thinker. He's supposed to inspire, innovate, review. So that was supposed to be the work of the IG.
Yeah. And as much as you all, when you were Kenyan Human Rights Commission, as much as you all hated Major General Mohammed Hussein Ali, that was a man.
We didn't hate him. We had a job description. that thou shalt not kill, even when you suspect him to be of crime. So we told generally that rule applies not only in the biblical sense or in the Islamic sense, it applies also with the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya.
Someone tell Al-Shabaab that.
He ended up putting in bullets. You see, but that's the whole idea. We are not Al-Shabaab. It does not mean that if Al-Shabaab is committing crimes, then we commit official crimes. In fact, we are supposed to show ourselves as of greater values, of greater.
But they see that as weakness, Senator. They see that as weakness.
But that is the strength of our values. In fact, all great statesmen in the world have said that let's not falter to sacrifice and undermine our own values and principles and constitutional order on the basis of people being vicious on us. We must react with that kind of resilience. Resilience. We're not saying that don't fight back. We're saying fight back, but don't victimize those who are not party to it. That's all we're saying.
I still think Ali would have done a great job.
You see, Ali had a certain discipline, which I have to give him credit for that. He had a certain discipline. Yeah. He was not appointed because he was the president's tribe or the deputy president's tribe. That's the problem here we're having. We're trying to look for our tribesmen. You know, somebody comes from this village, you replace him with somebody else from another village, and you think you've done your politics well for re-election in 2017. Yet he underperforms and he makes it even tougher. So Ali was not there on anybody's patronage. He knew who his commander-in-chief was. He's respected only one person, Kibaki. He stood up against everybody else. He was a no-nonsense guy. Yeah, you might not know that I used to speak to him. He also believed I was a fairly no-nonsense guy in my own ways where I was.
Yes.
So so you see, you have admiration. Respect. You have that admiration. Yeah. But look at these people. These are people just political who will pay patronage to anybody.
And we'll keep
to just keep the top happy.
And we'll keep paying for this as time goes on. This is not the end. Obviously, this is not the end.
I hope not, Jeff. Yeah. I hope we can do something.
I hope so too, Senator. Let's talk about that. Maybe solutions, the way forward. How can we get out of this mess we're in? Because every time it looks like we're taking 2 steps forward, turn around and take 3 backwards, and we're back to minus. Let's take a break. At Hassan Omar H, at Koinange Jeff, the hashtag JKL Campus Siege, Garissa Attacks, whatever you want to call it. Let's keep talking. It's a very sober conversation with a senator from Mombasa, and he's seen his fair share of terror attacks in his county. Tourism all but dead. Now this. What next? Stay tuned. Jeff Koinange Live. We'll be back in a moment.